Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Crocker with me, Dr. Crocker, and my husband, Shane.
Hey.
Welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm good.
Middle of the day, we're doing the podcast. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, and we are ready to lock in. I have some interesting things to talk about today. Definitely want to get your perspective, but let's introduce ourselves first. I'm Dr. Crocker, an emergency veterinarian, general practice owner, a mom, and I do a little bit of speaking and social media. What about you?
I'm Shane, and I'm married to you.
That is not the only thing. What are you contributing to this podcast?
Still trying to figure that out.
That's not true.
I run a few businesses and the finance side of those businesses, one of them being the veterinary hospital.
Yes. And you also come from the public's kind of perspective of pet ownership and not from the veterinary medicine side. So
Very true.
If you're new to the podcast, it's called Questions with Crocker because we address things going on in veterinary medicine, going on in our lives as practice owners. We answer your questions. You can listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube, and we would love you to leave reviews. We actually got a new review recently, which is great. So shout out.
Positive review?
It was a positive. Yes. We actually just erased the negative. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, those disappear.
Those disappear. So yes, leave your review. Watch us if you want to. Let's get into it. I am glad we're here. I'm really, really happy the sun is shining because it has been wild in Texas recently. Do you want to explain to everyone what happened recently at our vet hospital?
Oh, I thought you were talking about my golf game.
Well, you can give us a golf update first.
I left early today to be here
do a podcast.
to podcast. So
well,
we have that going for us.
Were you playing well?
I was not. No.
Okay. Well, maybe this was like
I had an excuse to leave.
Yeah, there's a reason. You had an out. I feel like if you were having a just amazing game, you would have called me and been like, "Hey, can we push the podcast a little bit?" Yes.
Never would do that.
Golf and podcast. There's a big spread there between those two things. Okay, so tell me a little bit about our vet hospital and what drama happened there recently.
Well, we did a major remodel recently.
Beautiful.
And we enclosed an area that historically was not being used very often, that had a tendency to sometimes take in a little bit of water.
A little bit, yes.
We thought we had that remedy. We did a lot of work in the back, re-roofed everything, put in gutters, and have not had an issue with water until recently.
For like months and months. And there's been a lot of rain.
Yes.
Like we've seen a lot of rain and we haven't had an issue. And then I'm in dentistry the other day. And of course, it was like an intense dental on a fellow emergency veterinarian's dog. So stress levels higher. And I'm doing an extraction. And I knew you were in the building because we were going to have a meeting. And one of the other doctors came in just to say hi, check on me. And I said, "Hey, can you send Shane in here?" And her eyes got really big. And she looked at me and she said, no, not right now. I'm like, automatically, like, what's wrong? Why'd you say it like that? And she said, "Shane's busy right now." I said, "What is Shane doing right now?" She's like, "I'll tell you after you're done with your dental." I'm like, "No, you're going to tell me right now because you're freaking me out." And she said, "Yeah, we were going to wait to tell you, but the hospital's flooding." And so in your mind, if somebody says, flood, you're like, okay, maybe a little water is coming under the doors, right? Because it's really windy.
That was my initial thought.
And
maybe we had a little hole in the roof somewhere, a little drip.
Yeah, like a little drip coming down from the ceiling.
It was not that.
There's a big variation. It was not that. I got done with the dental, walked to the front of the hospital, and all of our exam rooms, almost except one, had at least, 2-3 inches of muddy water in them, just sitting there. And I walked out back, and our entire back area of our hospital that's covered but not enclosed was just
looked like a swimming pool.
And
like
the water
pond.
was just pouring off the roof and pouring in. And so, automatically, I think it might be the emergency vet in me. I kind of just got really calm and came back in, and I said, "Okay, so what are we doing? What's the plan?" And automatically was like, buy the shop vac, like grab the shop vac. You had actually gone to get sump pumps. Is that what they're called? And everyone got to work. They put plastic bags on their feet. Everyone was like grabbing towels. But it was just go mode. Luckily, we had a break in the day because we were going to do a staff meeting, but instead we sucked water up out of the hospital. pulled up the flooring because you used to be in
I
restoration.
sold that business for a reason.
You did, because we hate dealing with stuff like this. And we cleaned as good as we could over the next couple hours. The pumps worked, thank God, and it stopped flooding. But I remember you were out back setting up the pumps, I think, and I walked out there, and I had been inside working and cleaning and doing everything. And I remember just tears slowly falling down my face for just a second. I was like, okay, I'm not with anybody else. I'm only with Shane, because we just did all this work. We just put all this money in, and we knew there's no saving things. We would just have to change. So that is the fun of business ownership.
So now we have guys putting in drainage system right now.
Yes.
And we have new floors getting in like 2 weeks.
I was joking with the team. I was like, we had 10 grand sitting around.
I've got
Might as well just spent it.
I've got my appointment already set up at the sperm bank. So we're good to go.
Our joke is that our children are really cute and really smart and athletic. So if we ever needed to, we could just sell some of our DNA to someone else. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's been an emotional couple of weeks, I feel like. The good thing is we're experienced in dealing with things like this in water. The better thing is my team, our team, everyone just like bonded together.
Yeah, we didn't miss any appointments and we're rocking and rolling. So.
Yeah, we worked through it. We're still working through it. But everyone was just like, all right, let's handle this. And it was a weird, almost like building the team up moment. And everyone just kind of came together. So I got a little emotional just thinking about how great the support was for one another. And we kept each other laughing through a really horrible experience. But if you're a practice owner, you do have to realize these things are going to happen, especially if you own the building and the land. We own all of it, and so it's on us to fix it, and now we will. And the guy today that was out there doing the drains, super nice guy, but he's like, you probably don't need to do this anymore. It probably won't rain for the rest of the...
I hope he's right.
I hope he's right, but I was
that
like...
is money that we didn't need to spend.
I told him, I said, I literally can't sleep when it rains anymore. Like, I freak out that it's going to flood again. So I just need this done so I can actually sleep at night again. So anyways, that's our hospital update. We also had our new doctor start this week. Love and adore her. She's going to be a great addition to the team. We've been having a lot of fun with her. I did think I could share a case. I had an interesting one. Did I show you the pictures of the abnormal dog that I did for Operation Kindness?
The penis?
The penis.
When you say the penis, like the abnormal dog, you send me a lot of abnormal dogs.
Well, I think some kids listen to this podcast.
Oh, sorry.
So, but
Kids.
It is a veterinary one. So we're going to use correct anatomical terms. Yes. So it's a young puppy. We think it's like 4 or 5 months old. And it did come from like a cruelty case through the shelter. Operation Kindness is a local rescue. They're amazing. They picked this dog up. And basically, the penis is not in the prepuce. It's just out. The prepuce looks like it has a congenital defect, and there's no opening on the penis. So there's no opening for this dog to pee out of there. And so they were thinking the dog needed like a reconstruction of the urethra and its penis fixed, and a little like plastic surgery in that area. So they asked me if I could come in and do it. They knew I was familiar with the surgery. And so I said, sure. And they hadn't sedated him or done like much more of an exam because they knew we were going to do surgery. So I got there and it was really interesting. Happiest puppy ever. We took him outside and we kept trying to watch and see like, where is he peeing from? Because he's not sick. And if he wasn't able to pee or the pee was going somewhere it shouldn't have been, like there'd be a sign of it. So we knew he was peeing normally from somewhere, but he's so excited to see everyone. Like he would not pee for all of us. And so we eventually brought him back in, sedated him. And it was really interesting. We think he has what's called hypospadias, which basically there's no urethral opening of his penis and it's far back. And we basically pull his testicles apart and there's a hole between the testicles. So usually like the testicles are in the same sac, essentially.
Sounds like a circus dog.
In the same scrotum. And it's all one thing. But it's like there's 2 different sacs. The testicles are on either side and then there's an opening. And you can see into the urethra and it only goes one way. And he's just peeing right out of that hole. So it actually was an easier fix than we thought. We just left the hole that had already been made there. We think it's probably a congenital issue where he could pee. We neutered him, so we had to make 2 separate incisions to neuter him. And then we I took his prepuce and I kind of closed everything up over his exposed penis because it probably would have been fine, but it looked kind of wild, and we felt like
Yeah,
adoption.
it looks something. Yeah.
It looked a little wild, and we were a little worried that people adopting him might like be freaked out by it. So it actually came together really well. It looked great. They said he's super happy. He's recovered great. He's peeing really well. But it was kind of fun to be called in for like a special case and a special surgery. They have an amazing facility in Dallas, and I talked to him, and I'm actually going to probably go do some more surgeries there and kind of
Nice.
do some pro bono work with them. But Operation Kindness in Dallas, amazing. Y'all should definitely support them. They're doing great things for strays and cruelty cases like this. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, we have been going through Profit Solver. We've been doing some price adjustments based on not even the economy, but just how many people we've been using for certain things. And I will be honest, I've been stressed. I hate raising prices. I hate looking at prices. I hate stressing about it. But as a business owner, I have to look at it because we can't pay our bills and pay our people if we don't charge appropriately and cover our cost. So it's been good information. But the interesting thing to me is recently I had a local corporate hospital, and I found out about some of their prices. And so for comparison, at our general practice, our exam fee is $69. And then if you do full x-rays that we send to a radiologist, I think it's now, $265, $270, something like that, which I know is a lot less than like the ER I work at. But it's an ER, it's 24-hour facility. It's going to be more. But this is another general practice. And I found out that their exam fee is $140, and their x-rays are $530. And so it's interesting to me because there's a lot of conversation right now about, is veterinary medicine pricing itself out of like pet owners being able to afford care for their pets, and what does that look like? And, what is the responsibility for us to try to keep things reasonable, help pets versus charging more? So how would you explain, like from a business perspective, to somebody why our small private general practice would have an exam fee of $69 and a big corporate general practice that's in the same area, has the same demographics, has the same people, has an exam fee of $140?
I think it's pretty simple. We know from Profit Solver we lose money on exams. So our exam fee doesn't cover the cost of our doctors and technicians. We actually lose
like the
money.
time that they spend in
Yeah,
there.
when somebody comes in and we do if they just came in for an exam, we'd lose money. Like it's black and white. Like we lose money on that.
So your take is the corporations
They may
are
be breaking even at
like
that
they're
140
charging
number.
more appropriately
Yeah.
for the exams based on what they're paying their team and their technicians.
Yeah, that may be their break even number at best, but when we talk to Profit Solver, that's a big problem with veterinary medicine, that the exam fees don't cover the costs associated with it.
Well, they said it's a loss leader, right? So like or something like that.
Yeah,
Basically,
you have to do it.
They're going
but
to
you're not
call
making
around
money.
and ask for it.
Correct.
And if your exam fee is a little less, then people will probably book with you. And then the hope is they do their vaccines and they do their lab work.
But the
and all that.
reality is you shouldn't lose money on that, in my opinion. Like you should at least break even. And the reality is you should be profitable. I mean, if you go to a dentist or a human medicine, my guess is they at least break even or make money
On
with
their
their exam
exams.
fees. I could be wrong. I don't know the economics there, but we shouldn't lose money, but we do on all of our exam fees.
So why do you think that is? Do you think it's just a historical thing with veterinary medicine that exams are so low because we used to make so much off our pharmacy, and now because there's so much more competition for like online pharmacy things that we, should be increasing our exams more than we have in the past?
I think you're probably going to, at a certain point, you're going to have to. I think you're going to see more, you're going to make less money off of things like labs and pharmacy and other things that you've historically made money on, that at some point you're going to have to raise your prices for your professional knowledge. It's just a matter of time.
And then what about something like the x-ray charge being $250 more?
Again, I think when you take the cost of the interpretation and everything else, I mean, I think we're profitable on our x-rays, but depending on who they're using for interpretations, and I mean, x-rays aren't that simple. Like, it's not just one doctor and getting an x-ray. It's, multiple technicians and sometimes sedation and, the time involved and, sending it off for interpretation and then coming back and reading that interpretation. I mean, there's a lot that goes into an x-ray. So I'm not completely sure. I have to go back and look at our profit solver number. We're profitable, but it's not, it's not significant margin on our x-rays.
I think that we had decent margins because our x-ray was a part of like our lab deal. So
well, they factored in the cost associated with that.
What?
Yes.
Okay. I do think it's very interesting because for me, like my gut looking at it would be, and this is hard to say, but it would be that corporations run at a higher profit margin than small private general practices do. They also have bigger benefit packages for their teams. They also pay bonuses to their doctors. Like, I think in general, their overhead costs and what they have to spend to run their hospitals is probably more. So they're charging more to pet owners. But then what I've been told from consolidators is like their hope is all their hospitals will run at like a 30% profit, which is really, really high compared to like general practices.
It may be high for veterinary medicine, but these private equity groups or large consolidators are used to dealing with, technology companies or whatever it may be, and their profit margins are probably significantly higher. So some of it is they're running it like a business, and there's margin to be made there if you price yourself appropriately. So
I think it's so hard because the mind shift for pet owners, obviously people are paying for it. Like obviously people are paying $140 for an exam versus our $69. So why does the $69 keep me up at night? Because I think I want to get people in the door. I want to help people. It's not as much about how much money I can make and the profit margin I need to pay our team, but it's almost interesting that like from the business perspective for you, you're like, yeah, it makes sense. And they're charging more appropriately and they're doing things the right way and they're running like a business. From my perspective, being in the industry for so long and going into this industry for certain purposes, it does feel like they're charging more than is sustainable. But if they're still around and people are paying it, then it's working, I guess. I don't know. It's like I can't explain it because we still have people that struggle with the exam price that we have. Who services the people?
I think the difference is historically veterinary practice has been owned by veterinarians, right? And they didn't have data like a profit solver to come up with the prices. They just took a swag at it or, use what they came from an old practice with or whatever the neighbors are doing, right? So nobody really knew. They just knew at the end of the month, I made a little bit of money and I can survive. I think what you're going to get to is a certain point, you're going to get to veterinarians practicing veterinary medicine and business minds are going to run their practice, meaning the prices are going to shift, the margins are going to shift, and it's going to run like a business. And the veterinarian is going to practice medicine. The cost associated with this, the cost associated with it.
But that scares me because you used to be in human health care.
Yeah, but the problem with human medicine is all the other factors that come into play. Your insurances, your cost to collect. There's a lot of other factors in human medicine.
But there's still a lot of like corporate greed in the human world that contributes to it. So the more you see it looked at as just a business and, vets are expected just to show up and do whatever, I think it almost takes away the human component of what we do. And I think my concern is it's one of the reasons why like veterinarians are not as well respected of a profession as they used to be. I think the more you preface it as, well, it's a business and we need to run it that way, and you take away the human animal bond component of it and access to care component of it, there's some magic that is lost in like what we do.
No, I'm saying you still have that. You're just not focused as a veterinarian on the money.
But you can't have that if somebody can't afford $69 and you say, but I need to make money off this, exam no matter what. So I'm going to charge $140. I'm just going to cut out this portion of the pet owner population that absolutely cannot pay that. Does that make sense? Like where is the happy medium where you are profitable, which I personally feel like our hospital is trying to accomplish and is doing a decent job of doing it. But where is the happy medium where you're actually helping people and servicing them, but you're not so overpriced that you are only helping an elite group of the population of pet owners.
I don't know the answer to that, but I know if a business isn't profitable and it's not making money, it can't survive. So you get to a point where you may want to do all this good, but if you can't keep your doors open, you can't do any good at all. So you've got to get to a point where you're profitable and the business runs at a profitable margin, or you can't stay in business.
Well, I know we've talked about, because we have other businesses, and you have talked about the profit margin in vet med is so much lower than in any of the other businesses.
It is. Now, there's a factor there where if you were a single doctor running 2 or 3 technicians and you maxed out your, capabilities there and ran it really efficient, your profit margins would be really good. But when you try to run it as a business and you staff it as a business and you as a doctor are stepping back and running it, and the margins aren't as nice or as strong. But if you as an owner and you're dropping X% of the bottom line and you're making X% practicing, of your production, then you can make good money, and it is a profitable business in that sense.
So,
does that make sense what I'm saying?
No, it does make sense. Like, I definitely would make more from the practice if I worked as one of the doctors full time, and I also ran the business. And so I wasn't paying another vet a salary that was going to me, and I run a very efficient team, so I could do a lot with 3 technicians. I totally understand what you're saying. I think I just don't know where the turning point is. And a lot of people are saying we're starting to hit the ceiling on like what we can price. There's a really good podcast the other day, and they were talking about preventative visits being down, but also like per visit, the price that people are paying being down dramatically. So just that people are picking and choosing more what they can do. And so I don't know what's going to happen with the economy. I don't know what's going to happen with the business, but it is in my brain wild to me that someone's charging double what we're charging for exams and they're still really busy. And so, but I just, in my heart of hearts, have such a hard time jacking the price up that much, knowing how many people we are able to help that can't or say they can't afford.
Yeah, I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? They say they can't afford it, but do they leave our hospital and go, eat a $50 lunch and buy a Starbucks, right?
True.
So
True.
That's the question. I mean, it may feel like a lot of money to them, but are they spending their money, wisely?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's where it's hard not to like judge.
And again, it may come down to, I can't afford a pet to keep my lifestyle, therefore I'm not going to have a pet, right? And you may see some of that. But I think, it's going to come down to a supply-demand equation.
I'm hoping over time it'll all balance out. Now, obviously, I'm hoping the economy also will have some like resets there, because in general, I mean, everything is just crazy.
We're starting to see some positive rebounding coming back from the
Hopefully.
economist.
We were talking about that, like for family of 4. I feel like we used to go eat and it would be like $60 or something maybe, and now it's like $100. Like it feels like we can't eat for.
Yeah, if we go to a restaurant, it's significantly more than that.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like if we choose to continue that lifestyle, maybe we can have pets, or you have pets, but you can't afford to go out and eat as much, right? Yeah. And there's going to be
like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like you got to make some decisions.
That may be what it comes down to.
That makes sense. Well, I just am in turmoil over all of it. And then the more information I get, I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't stress about it as much.
But I will say this is the beauty of Profit Solver. It even if you don't change your prices, it highlights a lot of things that maybe weren't highlighted, from the beginning for us.
Yeah.
To factor in the cost, the real cost associated with each procedure and everything that we do, and tell us this is profitable, this is not profitable.
This is, yeah.
Across the board. So I think it's a good exercise. And again, these big corporate practices are doing the same type of thing. They just have staff probably doing it internally. So
yeah, I agree. I feel like I have a business mind, and then I feel like when these things happen, I realize how much of a bleeding heart I actually am, and that I don't have as much of a business mind. The team was actually joking the other day that I'm the worst one about wanting to give stuff away and discount.
Probably so.
And I'm the owner of the practice.
And that's probably true across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, from most veterinary owners. And that's why a lot of owners you talk to say, I don't deal with the money. Like, somebody else does the estimate, somebody else does all the invoicing. I don't see any of that.
Yeah, because
to make sure they take themselves out of the out of the equation.
I have gotten where at the end of appointments, I try not to look at the invoice, like, unless they need me to do
And I
something
think,
specific.
and this is bad to say, but I think a veterinarian's job is to recommend the highest level of care and then work backwards to what somebody can truly afford, right?
Well, okay, so let's talk about that. There's yes and no. So there's been some good data that's shown that if you know someone's budget is $300 and you go in there and offer them a $600 plan for workup and treatment, like, you are just setting them on the defensive right off the bat, right? So I agree with you. And in the emergency room where this happens more than the GP even, I'll say, ideally, we would do blood work and x-rays because your dog is throwing up, because there's a lot of reasons why that could be. And we probably need both to determine what it is. But this is the starting point for those diagnostics. It's $800 right off the bat, and that's without any treatment or anything else. And based on their body language or their feedback to me, then I'll say, okay, well, is there place we're starting, or do we have a budget we're working with? And then I'll make a plan and
And I think
write,
that's
like,
fine, right?
recommendations. But, like, some people and a lot of students are taught in vet school, like, you need to go in and say, we have to do blood work, x-rays, a fecal ultrasound, blah, blah, blah. And then make the owner say, no, I decline all that. And then say, okay, well, I'll do another plan, take stuff off. I don't think you have to document, like, I offered this huge gold standard plan, other than to verbally have a conversation, read body language, and get feedback. I think there's a little bit of because I do think you want people to be a team with you in their pets, decision making, and not be on the
I
defensive.
mean, it's the same thing. We bring our kid in, they just hit their head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you take them into the ER because you want to be, careful. And they recommend all the stuff like, wait, I'm not doing MRI. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure, that we don't have a concussion right now, but everything else appears to be fine, right?
Yeah.
It's the same concept, They may throw the kitchen sink out of it, but
except they can't tell you how much it's going to cost you.
well, true. They have
Because
no
when
idea.
we did that, I said, well, how much will that cost? And they were like, looked dumbfounded that I would even ask, like, what it was going to cost me.
And again, the difference between human medicine and veterinary medicine, there's a lot of problems.
No
so.
clue. I'm like, is it $500 or $5,000? No clue. Like, no clue even the range of what it would be. And that was, like, shocking to me, because I feel like all day long I'm telling people what things cost, quoting prices, coming up with plans based off of finances. And it's just wild to me that that was not a consideration at all. So yes, definitely a big difference between human and animal. Okay, we could keep talking about this. I don't think there's any good answers in it. And I do think that in veterinary medicine, we're just going to continue to see things change and progress. And I'm hoping there'll be happy mediums for access to care. And I think that's, like, what I'm aiming to be, is a happy medium where people that are a little cost conscious can come in and still get good quality care with value, good surgery skills, and good workups, but not pay thousands of dollars for it at a GP hospital. But I don't know. We'll see. Okay. I did think it'd be funny to share a couple of these. I don't think I shared them before. I put a thing up about, like, funny things that I had said on accident to pet owners. And then I asked people to share, like, their stories of things that they had said. I don't think I shared this with you already, did I? Okay. So this one made me laugh the most. So this person said that they were in the room with the pet owner and they said, solid poop, 10 out of 10. I wish mine were like that. Ha ha. Oops. Sorry. I have to go help in surgery. And she ran out of the room. And she was, like, so embarrassed that she said that. And I was like, yeah, that would definitely be embarrassing. This one said they had an owner come in with an old girl border collie that had flea allergy dermatitis. And he was, like, an old man, crotchety, couldn't afford much, and was really skeptical of vets. And he kept saying that they charged too much money. So she gave him a list of the flea treatments that he could do online, and gave the dog a Capstar. So as the owner was leaving, she said, so thanks, those tablets should be good, drop dead. They should drop dead and she'll be able to relax. The owner didn't understand that she meant the fleas would drop dead, and was like, she's going to drop dead, and, like, freaked out that she was going to kill the thing. And then it was, like, awkward. And then this one, they said a client was freaking out that their pet had fleas upon the exam. And I was trying to lighten the mood, the doctor was. And she said, hey, at least it isn't ringworm. That's so much worse. But I spoke too soon. Upon further examination, it was indeed ringworm and fleas. And it was suddenly not funny at all anymore. in a room, a little girl pointed at her kitty's tuna churro sticks. And we were like, no, don't eat that. And the grandma said, I don't know, she might actually like that. And then I said, I remember eating dog treats as a kid. And they all looked appalled. And I was like, well, and they said, I guess you entered the right field. I was like, I definitely ate cat food when I was a little kid. So, anyways, I thought those were really funny. And I like those funny stories because I feel like I've been that awkward vet in the, office that said something inappropriate and wrong and then wanted to backtrack all of it. So, what about you? Do you ever say anything inappropriate or wrong?
I'm sure I have.
Yeah. One thing I did want to say is overall, we enjoy doing this podcast. We've been doing it every 2 weeks. We definitely need people's questions if we want to continue it. I feel like I get the same questions again and again, and I can keep asking those questions. But if people want to get more information, hear more about veterinary medicine behind the scenes, about being an emergency vet, about owning a vet hospital, then they definitely need to share those questions with us. So if you can follow us on all the social media platforms at Questions with Crocker, if you can leave a review, that'd be amazing. If you want to listen to us on Apple or Spotify, please do. And you can watch us on YouTube. Do you have anything you want to add?
Nope. I would prefer not to do this during golfing hours.
I will try to schedule this better, but I do appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. It's always fun hanging out. And your perspective is definitely needed because it always challenges me and makes me think a little bit more. So if you guys have any feedback you want to give us on this episode or anything you want to say, you can always DM me on social media. Thanks so much for being here and have a wonderful day. Bye.